What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Attack on Titan: The Final Season. This is episode 2, or episode 61, I should say. Also, with me as always, I have Blue Spade.
Well, there's not a lot of action in this episode. It was just mostly dialogue heavy for the most part. However, I did notice the animation style is a lot more smoother, compared, to how Studio Wit has done their animation.
Yeah, I noticed it whenever I see characters like walking, and I thought I was like, it looked different. I just couldn't put my finger on what it was. So another reviewer brought up that apparently they were using some rotoscoping for this episode. And I don't know too much about rotoscoping. From what I'd seen of it, I'm not a big fan because I've seen it used in other shows and it just doesn't really look too good in my opinion. But here it doesn't look that bad because I think it's probably just because it's not very used that much. But it does make the walking animations look a little bit smoother when characters are like walking around. Because I did notice that when they were walking around, it looked kind of like it looked different, but I just couldn't figure out what it was.
There was also another scene like like later on in the episode where Reiner was eating dinner with his family, and then it's just like their movements, like talking around the table is a lot more smoother than what you normally see.
Yeah, I thought at first it was like them doing some dramatic zoom ins or something, but it was, I think it's like you said, the more so the movements. Because I noticed something weird about that too, but I didn't, like I said, I just didn't know what it was, but I guess it was due to the rotoscoping.
Yeah, I mean, it's, this makes me think, well, you said like you think that Mappa might do a better job than what Wit has done in previous
I will
seasons.
say, like, I feel like in this episode, I kind of like this, like, the art style isn't too different, but it does look a little bit more, like, crisp, I guess. Just, it does look sharper, like, the detail, like, it's more detailed, I guess. Like, there's much more detail in the faces, and just, it's, I don't know, I think it looks a little bit better. The only thing so far that I'm not a huge fan of is obviously, as most people probably aren't with anime, is the CG. It's not bad CG, but it is also kind of annoying at times when I see it used. So I'm kind of hoping they use that sparingly, or they kind of transition more from 2D to CG if they have the Titans, when the Titans show up again.
Yeah, well, but yeah, so anyway, the episode, like I said, it's just mostly dialogue heavy stuff. So the episode starts off like with Marley's generals, I guess, discussing like what their next steps is after their victory in the last episode.
Yeah, because they're saying the age of the Titans is coming to an end, so like conventional weaponry is actually becoming more effective than using Titans.
Yeah, so during the meeting, Zeke proposes that they go back to Paradise Island to go after Eren again to obtain his founding Titan powers, and of course, like Zeke says that this needs to be done within like the year because Zeke only has like 1 year left before his time as the Beast Titan expires.
Yeah, and then we also learn he's giving it over to this to Colt, who is Falco's older brother.
And then majority of the episode, like shortly after this, just mostly focuses on Reiner and pretty much the rest of his family, Gabby included.
I actually really liked how they developed Reiner's character in this episode. Like, you kind of feel more for him.
Because like we saw like most of the time we saw him in the last season, like you saw him as like just a swell guy to hang out with, and then like you find out that he pretty much backstabs everyone when he reveals himself to be the armored Titan in the first place.
Yeah, and I think there's also just like a lot of internal struggle with him because he's obviously been brainwashed by Marley to believe that everybody on the island is a devil and are not human, but at the same time he still has like he still can't help like seeing the people he used to know as like kind of being his friends at the same time.
There's also the fact that I don't think he really knows that the people, pretty much the entire population of Paradise Island has been completely isolated from society the entire time. So I don't think he was even aware of that. Probably, I don't know. Like But yeah, so like you see him like interacting with like Gabby and the rest of her friends.
Oh well,
and
I should also say before this, we get introduced to the two people, the Cart Titan and the Jaw Titan. I forget.
Oh, yeah.
I forget who the guy is. Who the Jaw Titan is. I know the Cart Titan. Her name is Peak or Piek. I don't know how you pronounce her name, but she walks around with a crutch because she's not used to walking on two legs. Because spends the majority of her time as the Cart Titan.
That was her then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just like that's the first time that we actually see them interacting with each other in human form. So
yeah, the guy who's the Cart Titan does kind of have a bit of a grudge against Reiner because the guy who we actually get an explanation as to what happened to Ymir as well. Basically, Reiner took her back to Marley, and they imprisoned her, and I took the Jaw Titan back from her because she took the Jaw Titan after she ate the guy who's the current Jaw Titan after she ate his brother.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been curious to know what happened to Ymir since then, but now I guess she got killed off screen since those events. So it kind of sucks that we don't.
I don't know if she's just imprisoned or if she's dead. I guess.
Well, wait. Yeah. Well, you said that they took her power, so that means that she would have had to be devoured by another Titan.
Yeah, true. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I like that one scene where like Reiner has a flashback when he's like looking at Gabby and the rest of them as to Annie and Bertolt and the other guy when they were kids. So like he kind of throughout this episode he's just kind of it's like I said, it's more focused on him. I guess you would say him and somewhat Falco as well.
Yeah, because there's this conversation between them like when they're coming back from the train back home. That like they have a conversation that Gabby is the main candidate to inherit the Armored Titan, but of course Falco realizes if she inherits the Armored Titan, she will only live up to like the age of 27 before she ends up passing it on to someone else. Reiner and Falco are talking about Gabby being the main candidate to inherit the Armored Titan. However, like Falco knows that if she does become the Armored Titan, she'll only live up to the age of 27 before she's forced to pass it on to someone else. So Reiner encourages Falco to inherit the Titan, the Armored Titan himself in place of Gabby to save her from taking that burden. So, and then soon afterwards they arrive back home, and then we pretty much see like everyone else, like including Zeke, reuniting with their families. Like we see Zeke like reuniting with his grandparents, and then Gabby and Reiner reuniting with their family as well. And then there was also like different conversations between different soldiers. And then you mentioned something before we started recording that Falco runs into this crippled guy who you say is turns out to be Eren.
Is a bit of a spoiler, but yeah, people probably would not recognize him, but yeah, that's because we don't really see his face too clearly. But yeah, the person, the crippled soldier that Falco helps, that does end up being Eren. Although like he does say that his name is Kruger, is obviously a reference to Eren Kruger. But yeah, like he basically infiltrated Marley pretending to be a wounded soldier. And later on, we're going to see him basically tell Falco to kind of do things for him and have different conversations with Falco. But yeah, he is kind of planning something, but I won't say what.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, I didn't know it until like you recently told me about it. But it's interesting that Eren's already there. But I'm curious to like how he even got there in the first place. Thinking of that, it's like earlier on in the episode, I forgot to mention that Marley tried to send in boats back to Paradise Island, or scouting ships to Paradise Island, but they never came back due to, like, I guess supposedly it's Eren that ended up destroying
I think Zeke
all those
says
ships.
That he thinks it's that Eren's responsible for it. We actually do see that in the manga that Eren destroying the ships using the Attack Titan. That I should point out that's something they don't show here. But yeah, I mean I don't think it's a big deal they cut that out.
I mean, it's possible they might show that scene maybe in a later episode, but I don't know if it's gonna really matter at this point. But yeah, so like pretty much another scene that happens is of course we see Gabby and Reiner, having a normal conversation with their family, and of course, like, their family's happy that Reiner's finally back after all these years of pretty much staying on Paradise Island the entire time. And then like you said, he pretty much reminisces on everything that's happened while he was there, and including like he feels a little bit conflicted and like on how he feels about everyone that he's met during his time there.
It's obvious which character he's describing when he describes each one of them. And obviously, like, his mother is kind of expecting him to pretty much more or less say they were all like monsters, and there's no like redeeming qualities about them or anything like that. But like the way he was describing them made them sound like they were just normal people, which is contradictory to Marley's brainwashing. So shortly after Reiner finishes telling them this, there's kind of like this awkward silence, and then like Reiner's mother is like, or like I think Gabby is like says something like, "Oh, well, aren't they all just devils?" or something like that. And Reiner's mother is like, "That's right, Gabby, that they're all like, they're all just irredeemable monsters or something."
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's like Gabby and the rest of the family don't even personally know these people, like, other than Reiner. So like Reiner's like the only person in that room who's actually had personal relationships with everyone else, and then like about what they've been through. So it's like, well, it's not like Reiner can really come out and really explain to them like what really happened. He just gave like a really vague like description of like of his time there.
And I mean, it's kind of like it's pretty much like the inverse of the people living on the island, whereas they don't really know of the existence, or at least they didn't for the longest time know about the existence of anybody that lived beyond the walls. The people that live in Marley don't know anything about, or they don't know anything other than what they've been told by Marley about the people that live on the island.
Yeah. But yeah, so pretty much after this, like, I think there's another scene where we see Zeke meeting with the other Titan warriors and pretty much telling them their plan to go back to Paradise Island to go after Eren. And then they talk about like utilizing like one of the noble families to help them out with that, using, I guess. And then they talk about like this other Titan they call the Warhammer Titan to help them go back to Paradise Island or something.
Yeah, because the Tiber family is in possession of the Warhammer Titan. But of course they kind of have doubts about that because the Tiber family apparently has not really utilized the Warhammer Titan for a long time, I think. And they've just kind of been living, I guess, as they put it, like just kind of not really participating in the war effort or anything, it seems. So they're not sure how willing they would be, I guess, to like do anything. But yeah, they kind of set up, because Zeke mentions there's going to be a festival where Willie Tiber, who is like, I think the current head of the Tiber family, if I'm correct, is going to speak. And I won't spoil anything, but I will say that is going to be a huge moment in this season. But I won't say anything more than that. Of course, that's also when we're, I think people could probably assume this, where we're going to finally see the reveal of the Warhammer Titan. But yeah, that is just kind of briefly mentioned. And we also learned that apparently the Marley, like, I guess some of the higher ups in Marley are like listening in on their conversation.
Yeah, because they're wary, of what. I guess it's fair because, like, they're like a whole group of like people that can turn into Titans, and it makes sense that Marley's government wants to keep a check on them if something if they
Yeah,
were
and
to
of
try
course,
to pull something.
Zeke knows this too. That they're listening in on their conversation.
Yeah, but I guess that's pretty much the majority.
Yeah, I
of
mean,
this
the ending is
episode. Like,
basically
there's
Reiner kind of lamenting that he has to go back to the island again. But yeah, like I thought this was a great episode. Honestly, like it's obviously a dialogue heavy episode, but I think it does a really good job at like further developing Reiner's character and kind of making you feel a little bit more sympathetic for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, you know, I did hear like a lot of people complain on social media of how there's not a lot of action in this episode. I mean, it's not about the action. I mean, you gotta
people complained
develop the characters a bit.
I think you know, people also complained in the season 3 in the beginning of it where there wasn't, you know, it obviously didn't really focus on the Titans in that first half, and you know, a lot of people probably didn't like that because it's Attack on Titan, but you know, it was kind of more so about the you know, people you know, just kind of the underground of what was going on here, you know, just basically about Kenny's group and the, like, you know, the corrupt government and all that. The show's kind of always been sort of like had all this sort of more, like, I guess you would say, kind of like political commentary and stuff like that, where, you know, we kind of saw that a little bit in season 3, and we're probably going to see that more so in this season too. But yeah, like it's not always just been about the human, like, you know, it's sure the beginning of it was about humans versus Titans, but it's not really so much about that anymore, just because of what we've learned about the world, and that the Titans aren't really the real enemy. It's technically it's people, you know, but the people are just using the Titans as weapons essentially.
Yeah. But yeah, I am still interested to see what's going to happen. Like, hopefully, you know, something might happen in the next episode. Assuming when like Eren and the rest of the Scout Corps will finally make their move.
Probably won't be until episode 3 or episode 4 or 5, I want to say. But I'm making a guess because I know, like, it does take a while in the manga for that to happen. But yeah, like, people are probably going to be a little bit upset just because probably going to take so long for, you know, Eren to show up again. And they're also probably going to be pissed because it's not going to be the Eren they know. And some people might like it, some people might not. But I personally like it just because I don't really have a problem with, like, the Eren, you know, Eren from the previous 3 seasons. But yeah, he's more he comes off as more of, like, I guess you would say, like, sort of like a shonen protagonist. Whereas this Eren, he's more like he's much more mature, and he's like, a lot of what he does is very questionable, and I kind of like that about his character, like, in that we're gonna see in season 4. Some people might have a problem with that, though, just because I mean, he does very questionable things.
I mean, it's clear. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear by the end of season 3 that he was gonna start going through a major character shift. So it seems like that. I would say, like, he's gonna start taking, like, you know, the personality of Eren Kruger, if anything, because I've seen you know, sort of signs of that when I hear people talking about him.
Probably accurate. So, which is why I say Eren's definitely going to become a sort of a controversial character, like, because, you know, it seems like he's going to end up turning into essentially kind of you know, more or less an anti-hero, I guess you would say.
More like the Lelouch or the Kira of Death
like
Note,
that,
or something like that.
So, but, you know, like, I like that because it's like you're not sure sometimes if, like, should I be rooting for this character or should I just condemn him for what he's doing? Because, you know, Eren is pretty much, without spoiling anything, I will say, yeah, he's going to be doing some really terrible things probably in this season, but it's all essentially for the greater good. So, you know, is the best way to put it, I guess. But yeah.
I mean, that'll all depend on, like, on what Mikasa and Armin think about what his actions are gonna.
They're not really gonna. I will say, without spoiling anything, they're not gonna necessarily agree with what he's gonna do. But that, like I said, that just makes it interesting. Like I like that characters like that. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about this episode in particular. I really like the small amount of rotoscoping they did for the movements, and I think it made the animation definitely look a lot smoother. I am definitely Mappa's art and animation are definitely growing on me. Although I don't know if I'll ever really get fully accustomed to them using like CG for the Titans. I guess we'll just have to see how they handle that going forward.
Yeah. Personally, I think this was a decent episode for Reiner in particular because it pretty much developed his character a lot better than it did back in season 2 when they portrayed him as a backstabber when he betrayed everyone else by revealing him and Bertholdt being Titans.
Yeah, we didn't really know about his circumstances in season 2. All we got was we're just kind of like these vague excuses, and we didn't really get anything else than that, which I think is good because if he said too much, it would have definitely spoiled a lot. So I kind of it wasn't until what we got, the reveal we got at the end of season 3, that we learned, the real reason why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get to see a lot more what's going to happen next week. I don't know if it's going to go into whatever you're mentioning at this festival that you mentioned.
Oh, definitely not the next episode.
I mean,
yeah,
probably not. Okay, so I guess they're probably going to keep building up, or start building up some plot points for the upcoming story, I guess. But we'll have to wait and see.
I will say too, the release schedule of these episodes are just I thought that it was just a one-time thing that they released the first episode at 3:30 or something on Sunday, but apparently that's what they're going to be doing for all the episodes, I guess. Which is a little bit strange. But,
yeah. It's kind of a little bit more inconsistent than what we're used to, but yeah, I guess they're they found their their regular schedule of when they want to air this.
But that all being said, until next Monday, we will see you all next time.